Hello, folks. Welcome to the Crime Dawg podcast. I'm your host, Johnny FIORICA, a retired detective with the Rochester Police Department in New York State. After serving 30 years in uniform patrol, undercover narcotics, street investigations, I was a hostage negotiator for over 20 years. Closing out my career with the fine men and women of the ATF, that's alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, where our main focus was violence and gun trafficking throughout these fantastic United States. Sitting alongside me, folks, my trusted co-host, 20-plus year veteran, legendary street cop, undercover cop, SWAT team member, homicide detective, David Simpson. Welcome to the pod, my brother.
Exciting day to be here, Johnny.
Whether you're a runner, want to be a runner, a walker, or someone who stands all day, Fleet Feet is your fitting experts in running and walking. For footwear, accessories, apparel, and even training programs for beginners, advanced runners, or walkers. Alongside their sister company, Yellow Jacket Racing, Fleet Feet offers an array of family-friendly events from 5K to half marathons to kids races on trails or roads. Fleet Feet is your premier running and walking specialty store with 2 locations in Rochester and 1 in Buffalo. Check them out, fleetfeet.com. That's fleetfeet.com. Yeah, it's an exciting day. It's an exciting week. You know, we dropped a pod last week relative to the lead up of the election, and I thought we would be remiss if we didn't do the election results. Not kind of like an I told you so episode, but just kind of to talk about some things that went down. Obviously, Kamala Harris lost in definitive fashion. There was no doubt America did not want her. I think it was a referendum, David, on the Biden-Harris presidency. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think it was a referendum on that, but I think it was also kind of a bringing things back to center as far as some of the woke left liberalness in America. I think people have had enough of it, and I think they want to see, the Democratic Party come more towards center instead of the far left, and hopefully this resets them a little bit.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think people were just sick and tired of the woke BS. I think they were sick of the left's bull ass and the media, Hollywood, social media, and I think they've been trying to jam their agenda down your throat for the past 4 years, especially since 2020. I think this vote was a vote that basically said enough's enough.
Yeah, I think it really showed that the American people tend to not love when government is omnipowerful and controlling their lives and telling them what's right and how it's going to be and what's the right thing, and not really letting the people decide that. I think it was really telling that, big government was slammed and people wanted their freedoms back.
Yeah, and I think they were tired of the lies too, David. I think they were tired of the lies that, hey, the economy's not that bad, grocery prices aren't that bad, crime was not out of control. I think people were done with that rhetoric,
Yeah, these type of platforms that we're doing, not that we're by any means big in nature, but I think people were really listening to some of the podcasts and some of the alternative forms of media that were speaking some truths and boycotting the mainstream media's propaganda. And I think it really helped them make informed decisions about what the truth was and not what the propaganda was.
Yeah, you're right. And speaking of the alternative forms of media, I think mainstream media is dead. I think Trump just outsmarted them again. I think he did it in 2016 with Twitter. They realized that, which is why they grabbed hold of Twitter during 2020. And I think he outsmarted them again. And here's how he did it. He went on huge podcasts like the Nelk Boys, like Joe Rogan, and some of those Andrew Schultz podcasts. I mean, where they just have millions and millions of viewership. And they were able to reach out to people that were actually listening and that can actually get out and vote.
Yeah, and I think the long form of the podcast format, when we know that very well, being able to really sit down and have conversations with someone for 1, 2, 3 hours and really dive into stuff where it's not like edited sound bites controlled by the media. I think people really respond to that when someone sits down and is just like, let's get after it. Ask me anything you want and I'm going to lay it on the line. I think that really resonates with people. And I think, him going on those podcasts and JD Vance also going on some of those podcasts really inform the voters at the end. And I think it had a huge impact.
And they weren't scripted, right? I mean, that's why, they would never send Kamala out there, or even if it was Joe Biden, they were unscripted. Joe Rogan is not going to be told what to ask. Joe Rogan flies by the seat of his pants. He's a fantastic interviewer. And she would never have gone on any of those podcasts. She would never have hit any of those because they would not have adhered to their criteria, their meaning Kamala's camp. I think there was some BS. I don't ever think it was true, but they were trying to hold Joe Rogan to certain criterion, if you will, that he was like, nah, I don't think so. They were trying to format it. And there's no way she would be able to sit there for 3 hours or even literally an hour with a guy like Rogan without her literally totally getting exposed.
Yeah, and I think this changes presidential elections moving forward. I think, the old way of sitting down with 60 Minutes and sitting down with, NBC, ABC, CBS and doing these interviews, I think that is so, I think a lot of people don't even need to do it. I think they're going to hit these long formats. And if you can't sit down with a Joe Rogan and or any of these guys and have a conversation, an open conversation, I think you're destined to fail. I think you have to have the ability to do that. And I think the next go around, you'll see the Democrats put a candidate up that will be able to do that. Otherwise, it'll just be a slaughter again.
Yeah, speaking of their candidates, I mean, they right now they have no bench, and by the way, their traditional ways of sending out the Obamas, Michelle and Barack, the Clintons, Hillary and Bill, and the Beyoncés and the Taylor Swifts and the Kelly Rowlands and the Lady Gagas and the George Clooney's. People are just fed up. They don't want to be talked down to. They don't want to be told who to vote for. They don't want to be told, by Barack, hey, you better vote this way. I mean, literally everyone that was in Trump's camp supported him, said great things about him, but they never really came out and put you in the proverbial headlock like a George Clooney did, or whatever, the white guys for Kamala and Waltz. I mean, it was just disgusting the way they came out and literally try to talk down to you and say, hey, you ain't voting for Kamala, then you're an idiot, A&L Painting, your kitchen cabinet painting specialist. We also offer a full portfolio of interior painting, exterior painting, and staining. Matt and his crew at A&L Painting are professional and reliable. They're the only painters that the Crime Dawg staff and our law enforcement partners trust to work at our homes. Call A&L Painting today at 585-478-4623. That's 585-478-4623.
Well, it gave me hope for the general American public because he surrounded himself with some outstanding, intelligent people that are absolutely going to be part of his cabinet. Whether it be Tulsi Gabbard, whether it be, obviously J.D. Vance is the vice president, Elon Musk. He surrounded himself with these people who are extremely successful and intelligent. And I think that resonated with the voters. It wasn't these Hollywood, who gives a crap, who gives a hell, who George Clooney's voting for and what he says. But when someone like Elon Musk, who's everyone can sit there and say is a brilliant guy, and he's telling you, hey, I'm not into politics, but this is the real deal, and this is where I'm going, and this is where I'm putting my money, I think that resonates with people a lot more than these Hollywood singers and actors and actresses who go on and say, this is what I'm voting for with ulterior motives.
Yeah, and I think also, David, what the voters looked at, right? They had a free look at Big Don for 4 years, right? I mean, it was right after the Harris-Biden administration was immediately following Trump's. And they saw what Trump's economy did. They saw how he ran the country. I mean, they saw how we were energy independent. They saw that we were the largest oil producing country in the world. We were an exporter. We were safe both domestically, internationally. There was no wars. There was no wars going on in the world. When he was the president, there was peace in the Middle East. I mean, so on and so on. Say what you want about the guy. I mean, I get it. I mean, there's times, even though I voted for him, there are times when I go, oh boy, that was a little cringeworthy. But guess what? You vote policies, you don't vote people. We said it all along. And to have his administration go from 2016 to 2020, and then the last 4 years from 20 to 2024, we see the literal decimation of America. And people were able to compare and contrast that and said, hey, you know what? I liked it better when the mean tweet guy was in office as opposed to when Harris Biden were there. And I don't want to take that risk of putting her there. I think they voted the right way. I really do. And if you don't like Trump, at least we're not going to have any issues regarding the threat to our nation relative to other countries and the things that I just listed, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be things that pop up, but I think he is better able to handle the decision-making process when he's given the information. Mm-hmm. And he's a hard worker. He's going to, be on point. He's going to be there ready to make calls. And he's going to surround. One thing he does, and one of the main reasons I voted for him the first time and I'll vote for him this time, is he knows his strengths and weaknesses, and he surrounds himself with very intelligent people that he can lean on to help him make these decisions. He is the leader, but you need to be surrounded by people that bring you intelligent information and are solid advisors and inform you in a way that you can make these educated decisions. And I think that's where he excels, is building that cabinet, a strong cabinet.
If he's definitely won. Obviously, he's going to win the popular vote. He's going to win. He's obviously won. He's got the Senate. I hope he can claim that House, because then he could at least have 2 years before the midterms to really rock and roll without having any headaches. I just hope that happens so people can actually see what he's going to do instead of this first term in 2016 when they literally cut him off at the knees at every chance they got. He's way smarter this time relative to the politics of Washington. And right. I think it's going to be good for him. Since 1922, State Farm has been working hard to help better protect you and those you love. We've always taken a future-forward approach to developing or offering products and solutions to meet your ever-changing needs. That's truer today than ever before. At the Christopher Marmo Agency, we're in the business of helping. We will work with you to create your personal price plan to help select the best possible coverage on your auto, home, and life insurance. Bundle and save with State Farm. Call Christopher Marmo today at 585-247-1462. That's 585-247-1462.
I hope that the American public, gets behind the office of president, whether you agree with, whether you voted for him or not. I think it's time we get behind who the president is, and I'm not saying you have to agree with everything he does, and he shouldn't be pushed back, because I think that's good government. But right. I think overall we need to have a little reset as far as supporting the office of the president, and also taking some pride again in our country and getting our swagger back a little bit. And he certainly brings that to the office. And I'm very happy about that. That's very important to me. And I feel like we were in a very down, depressed era of what the perception of our country was and what people in America perceived our country to be. And I think that it will be changing both foreign and domestic in the next 4 years.
Well said, David. Folks, if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, please click like and subscribe. You can check out our website, thecrimedawgpodcast.com. That's thecrimedawgpodcast.com, where you can click on our latest episodes as well as our library of episodes. And you can also check out our cool merch store there. Or if you can't get enough of us, you can listen to us on our weekly radio show every Saturday afternoon from noon to 1 p.m. It's called the Crime Dawg Live Show. That's the Crime Dawg Live Show on iHeartRadio. If you're local and you're in Rochester, that's Wham 1180 on your dial. If you are going to listen to us, we appreciate it. It's called the Crime Dawg Live Show for a reason. We take live calls, unscreened calls, that is, every week from noon to 1. Thank you for listening to the Crime Dawg Podcast. We hope you stick with us for future episodes. But like my brother-in-law, Frankie Grassi, says, if you can't make it, who cares?